Hi.
Okay, you got me.
Hello. How's it going? Well,
Hello, hello, hello.
glad to have you here today.
Happy
So
to
we
be here.
started. I will just introduce you really quick. And my name is Laura. I'm the Communications Associate here at Radical Partners, and proud to be a part of organizing Here's 10 Days of Connection. And to talk. So as you can see, like, invite hosts back to revisit their connection experience. For any new friends joining, I know you've been with the connection for a while, Evan. But for those who don't know, it's a community-led initiative that every year, May 1st through 10th, where the entire community is challenged to break down silos and engage in acts of connection. So that orgs and locals have participated in meaningful conversations through this, very much like the event you. So more about that event today. So please welcome Evan Goldman from the Jewish Federation, Broward. So excited you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, and just an unbelievable way to connect people. This is my first IG Live, so I feel like I'm getting younger by the moment.
Well, it's off to a great start, so I'm excited. And so we're at the last couple of days of Pride Month, so we're talking about gender and sexuality, but I remember the event, which was a courageous conversation on intersectionality with the Wider Bridge. You touched on a variety of topics, so could you please just share more about the Jewish Federation itself and then why these topics for the 10 days?
Thank you. And, we're privileged to work closely with 10 Days of Connection. It is a vehicle, and it's a vehicle that allows organizations like the Jewish Federation of Broward County to communicate out of our silos. So what does that mean? It means that if we are going to impact change, and certainly that is what we hope to do, right? At the Jewish Federation, we want Jewish population to live, work, and play to the best of their ability wherever they may live, and we want to eliminate all kinds of hate, whether it be anti-Semitism, bigotry, AAPI hate, or LGBTQ hate as well. But the challenge is that oftentimes we're talking to ourselves. In the United States, sadly, we live, work, and play, and I use that as a term of art within our own communities. And what 10 Days of Connection does is allow disparate, well-meaning organizations to come together, look at what's happening today, look what's happened last week, with folks that I haven't seen in many years. Hi, Chris Coleman from New Jersey, haven't seen them in a long time. It's not often that in the middle of our day, think about it, in the middle of our day, we are tackling a very, very complex topic. Intersectionality it's kind of a big deal, and it's something that doesn't get enough attention. And when it is paid attention to, oftentimes it's communicated inappropriately. And that is why with the Wider Bridge and Reverend Leonard and Rabbi Eger, we had such an amazing, amazing discussion.
Mm-hmm. It was amazing. I'm so glad that I attended it and heard from both the rabbi and the reverend, to have different religious leaders there talking about such a wide variety of topics that aren't usually talked about in a religious way. So I think it's a perfect transition to also what was your connection experience about? For those that weren't there, can you give like a brief summary?
So our connection was to make sure that we addressed an issue called intersectionality in a thoughtful way, that was inclusive, not exclusive. I stand for the proposition that intersectionality is inclusive of the Jewish community and the LGBTQ community. And I definitely, if nothing else in my life, stand for the proposition that we are all many things, and that we may not, and I dare say we must not, be defined by one identity alone. We are robust people. I think today more than ever, we are defined by labels, and that's fine to adapt a hashtag. I've adapted many of them, and I'm sure you have too. But our lives are much more complex. And I think I used to lobby in Tallahassee. I used to knock on doors and talk to legislators. And somebody once told me the game you're seeing is not the game being played. And I think that life is not binary. So to directly respond to you, Tori, the reason that we decided to host the event that we did was to take a much deeper dive into intersectionality and to make sure that people know that our identities are very diverse and they're also very complex.
Mm-hmm. That's true, definitely. And I'm many different kinds of people from all over the world watching your webinar with so many different identities, right, that you're talking about. So with such a diverse audience, what do you hope that anyone watching, no matter what their identity is anywhere, what do you hope that participants got out of the experience?
I hope that they realize that there's no simple answers to who we are, and that we should always err on the side of inclusion. Look, it is wholly appropriate for Black and Brown communities to identify perhaps with what is happening in the Middle East. Black and Brown communities have been marginalized for centuries, both here and abroad. And there are some major complex challenges, but it doesn't mean that we can't come together. And Jewish advocates can't take up that fight too. And it doesn't mean that Jewish LGBTQ members cannot be involved in the struggle for human rights in the Middle East. There's certainly, I am proudly pro-Israel. I stand before you as a Zionist. It does not mean in any way, shape, or form that there aren't big issues going on in Israel, just like Hamas is certainly a bad actor, would be putting it mildly. But I think that the genius of 10 Days of Connection is that we can talk about these things one-on-one, and to share and to appreciate where we are coming from. We've seen an uptick in anti-Semitism locally, and it's tough for me, as somebody who identifies as a progressive, to not see sisters and brothers joining that fight. We're in this together. If we are only going to be in our silos, we will be spectacularly unsuccessful. And Tori, there's so many, and I think the theme is with so many different things. And I said it before, I'll say it again. I lost a mentor 2 months ago. His name was Congressman Alcee Hastings, and I was asked to deliver a eulogy of sorts. And I began the talk by saying, Congressman Hastings was many different things to many different people. If you're a young attorney, you saw him as a giant of the law. If you were a judge, you saw him as a distinguished jurist. If you occupy the space that I do, and as a Jewish organization, oh my God, you've never met a stronger champion for Israel and the Black-Jewish relationship. I mean, I learned that at Sydney. If you are a marginalized community member, if you're a member of the LGBTQ community, he pioneered advocacy for that population within the Black community. So where am I going with this? Look at the congressman. You could talk to 10 different people and he would be defined 10 different ways. When you look at intersectionality, we have to be careful to recognize that we are so many different things, and that makes us stronger. When we identify the different ways that a white, Ashkenazi, Jewish man like myself, at first blush, may not believe so deeply in working with and on behalf of communities of color, there's more to it. I have a multiracial son. I've worked for many years in Black and brown communities, and I think that if there's anything, and I'm going to bet that you're going to want to pivot totally to this. How do we keep this going and these connections going?
Exactly what I was going
yeah.
to.
So we absolutely want to. Have more discussions like this, but I think that individually we have to take it one step further and be more deliberate about how we live, okay? And, you know, our society is designed to keep us apart. Gated communities, totally in Southern California, I bet y'all have some gated communities. We do too, but I see that my sister is on, LaShonda, she is my sister. Blood does not define that relationship. What defines that familial relationship is what's in the heart, and intentionally putting ourselves in those types of spaces. And I think, again, that's what 10 Days of Connection does.
That's exactly the mission of the 10 Days of Connection, is to break those barriers, and your sister says hello, and have conversations like these. It's great to hear about the push towards inclusivity and the importance of intersectionality that Jewish Broward sees. So just as we wrap up things, how, going with your mission, how to keep connections going, how can people support that work?
So I also, you know, I am an attorney, so I'm all about the data. So I want to leave you with one data point. When you think Jewish, you think somebody that looks like me. The data tells us that 12 to 15%, please look it up. It was it is a study that was done recently. 12 to 15% of Jews in these United States of America are of color. So I share that because the Jewish community isn't the only population, right, that's changing. America is changing, you know, and we sent that message at the ballot box. How can people get involved? Please follow Jewish Broward on social media. My email is egoldman@jewishbroward.org. We are in this together. You cannot be successful unless you build these bridges, and you also can't be and I think you can't be successful unless you have a deliberate body that is charged with making those connections, facilitating them, and that is the genius of 10 Days. So thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. So everyone, feel free to reach out to Evan, as he said, if you're interested in supporting the work. Give Jewish Broward a follow. Thank you so much for joining us, Evan. This was a great conversation, and I will see everyone next week for another 10 minutes to talk. So thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Thank you.